All right, welcome everybody to another edition of the Georgia Coaching Collective. We are joined today by Coach Andrew Hudson, and we'll dive into an interview with him here in just a minute. But to tell you a little bit about the Georgia Track and Field and Cross Country Coaching Collective, you can find our website at georgiatfxccollective.com. And there are multiple files for different things that can help out coaches. Coach Hudson himself donated a handbook when we started up a couple years ago, a team handbook that you can look at. But there are all kinds of topics, all kinds of documents. So please feel free to check that out. We're also on social media. We have our YouTube channel, so subscribe, all that good stuff. But without further ado, I'm going to embarrass him a little bit with my intro, but he is a Hall of Fame coach, both the state of Georgia and Gwinnett County. Many team titles, both in cross country and track. Runners that have qualified for NXN. Accomplishments on the national level at the national track meets. Just too many accolades to name, but an awesome coach. Welcome, Coach Hudson.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your introduction there.
Yeah, of course. And most recently, you were able to, your boys won the state title last fall. So that had to be fun. You've had a storied career, but how was that at this point in your career? We'll start there, kind of start from now, and then we'll work backwards. But what was that like last fall? That had to be special.
Well, it all came together on that day. Looking at how we did on the year before, 2023, we were the runner-up to Harrison, and they had a number of people back, but we also knew that we had strong group returning of seniors, and I felt like, in the years that I've coached, but also watched sports, collegiate levels, it just seems like experience is one of the biggest factors for succeeding on a championship day, and I knew we had that, but we also just had 5 boys, really, because we were looking at freshmen who were running 6 and 7 for us. And I don't put any pressure on freshmen at all, ever. When they come in, if I have a freshman who's pre-accomplished or has some high expectations, I just really try to meet them where they are. And I don't put any pressure on them. They certainly don't have the responsibility of handling the business of the team. Whatever they do is great. So with freshmen at 6 and 7, I knew we really only had 5 guys who had to get the job done on that day. And throughout the season, as might be expected, it's very hard for 5 guys to run well on the same day. It happened a few times, but we also had days where one would have a poor race or a couple would have a poor race. Generally these are the times where we got beat during the season. But I just felt like if we had 5 guys run well on the same day, that we would be the team. And we showed that a little bit at ASICs, and then we showed it again at sectionals. But, we still got, was everybody really trying as hard as they could? And I'd been around long enough to know that really what you do in regional sectional, at least for us in our approach, is very indicative of what's going to happen at state, unless you just have somebody implode, which happened to me before. But we were just very consistent. We had 4 seniors in that top 5, and we had 5 finishers in the top 30. And so, we had 4 and 19, and then 26, 28, 30, and that was it. I just knew coming down. Now, people made a big deal about the uniforms, but I don't think that's the reason we won state. We won state because they had the best last mile of anybody, whether people knew who we were or not. A lot of the other teams were moving the wrong direction, and we were moving up because that's kind of how we've tended to run in cross country. And we just had a great day. And I was very happy for them, but I was also happy because it had been a long time since I'd won a team state title. And so, it just kind of validated that, hey, it wasn't just, an incredible run of talent. I don't know. It was great because I think the last one that we had won was 2008. So that was the last time that I'd had a team win a state title. So it was a long time coming, but we've had a great 6 years at Denmark. So we've been knocking on the door for a while, and I was just very happy on that day that it just came together. So yeah, it was very rewarding.
Excellent. Well, yeah, like you mentioned, you're at Denmark now, but let's kind of start back. I know I've known you for a while, being in Gwinnett County together, but tell us about your roots in Virginia, because I know that's where.
Well, my running roots started with my dad, who was a very elite high school runner in California. He ran 4:16 in around 1960. And he was a cross-country state champion in California. And I believe that was the last year that they had a state meet in California. They had like a 25-year hiatus. They just had sectionals in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I don't know how long it was, but it was a long time before they had a California state meet again. And I believe he was the last one and the last team to win before they stopped doing the state meet. And he ran 4:02 in the mile in Arizona, and he ran 1:48.880, and this was in the early to mid 60s. So he's still, his lifetime PRs are all faster than mine. So that's where it started, and he got me interested in a young age. I competed in age group track in Iowa when I was about 6. And then I got into other sports. I got into swimming. And then when I moved to Virginia, I got into year-round swimming. But when I turned 13, that ceased to be fun when you move to the senior pool. And then all of a sudden, it's not as much fun anymore. I'm getting crushed in workouts. And then one time we did a biathlon at swim practice. And I was in the top 5 in the whole program. Boys, girls, all the way up to 18. I was 3rd or 4th in the running portion. So I thought, well, hey, maybe there's something to this. And I realized that going out on a run and changing scenery for an hour and a half was better than 3 or 4 hours in the pool going back and forth. And so that's when I did middle school track for 2 years. And then I was very fortunate to get into an exceptional program at Woodbridge High School. Ron Helmer was the coach there, who went on my junior year. He was director of track and field at Georgetown for, I don't know, about 16 or 18 years. And then he went to Indiana and was director of track in Indiana for, I don't know, 18 to 20 years. And he actually coached Ben Hubers when he was at Indiana. He actually passed away last summer. But he's probably one of the most influential people in my whole life, aside from my parents. And I feel like a lot of people had that relationship with him. And I feel like a lot of people have that relationship with successful coaches. And I feel like a lot of other people, the experience I had was so incredible and life impacting that I wanted to share it with other people. And I knew about when I was a junior in high school that I wanted to teach and coach. And so that's what I ended up deciding to do.
So fast forward to, you ran at Virginia, and then how do you end up in Georgia as a teacher and coach?
So I majored in English at Virginia, even though I kind of knew I wanted to be a teacher. I didn't go to the education school because I was so interested in English and taking classes and reading books. I didn't want to get tied up in methodology classes, so I kind of knew I had to go private school. So I used a teaching agency, and they set up some interviews in Georgia around the Atlanta area. And I knew at the time that Atlanta had gotten the Olympics. So it was kind of an exciting time to go to Atlanta, hot Atlanta. It was a very young city, anticipating the Olympics. So I actually I had an interview at Brandon Hall, which just recently closed its doors apparently, and then I interviewed at Riverside Military Academy, and they offered me a job, and so I was there for 4 years, and that's how I got into coaching in Georgia.
Okay. And then from there on to Collins Hill High School, when Collins Hill opened up its doors in the fall of '94, I believe.
Yes, I went there the second year.
Okay.
And so while I was at Riverside, they paid for me to get a master's, and it was an 85-hour program, 15 of which they gave me credit for teaching full time. So I got my master's at UGA. I commuted for 3 years, which was very stressful, coaching and teaching and commuting to Athens and other locations to do 70 hours of coursework. I took classes in the summer, but I got my master's and certification in '95, and then I got hired at Collins Hill in '95 for the second year of the school.
And that's where you ended up staying for what, 20 years, 20 plus years?
4 years.
24 years, yeah.
4 years.
So that's obviously the bulk of your career. So that's where you were able to kind of shape your philosophy, which is the next question I had for you. Is I know it's hard as a coach to kind of encapsulate your belief system, but what are some of your big philosophies or beliefs as a coach?
Yeah, it's hard to. I've never worked on a mission statement or trying to express my philosophy. It is a very difficult thing to do. Ever since I saw that, I've been thinking about, well, what is my philosophy? Do I have one? I'd be interested in someone reading my documents and watching me coach and then trying to tell me what my philosophy is. I'm interested in helping young people become fast runners and successful people. I have a variety of approaches. I think my training is constantly changing over time. Obviously, you start with the things that you did as a runner, and I had an influence of many different coaches. Even swim coaches. I was thinking about, one of the great coaches I had is a man named Don Regenbogen, and he was in charge. He was on staff at Quantico Devil Dolphins, which was my age group swim program, which was out of the Marine base in the DC area. And that program had 3 Olympians come out of that program. One was a swimmer, one was a diver, one was a modern pentathlon. So it was a highly successful program. And he came up with a lot of circuit training in the weight room. So he was an influence. And then obviously getting to running Ron Helmer and Buzz Mail and Bruce Goldsmith and my college coaches, Fred Bingley and Mike Cotton. So I had a lot of different influences in helping me develop a training program. Ron Helmer was very high mileage. I mean, I'm thinking, I did 80 to 100 miles my sophomore, junior, and senior years. I got a couple of 100-mile weeks my junior year in high school. And I'm paying the price for that now. I think that's probably a little bit too much in hindsight. This is why I haven't run for over years, because I think I have a death sentence on my foot. So, I'm trying to get back into running. I think I probably ran too much in high school. I don't have my runners do that much. I think maybe I've had 1 or 2 runners get to 70. Right now, I think kind of the sweet spot is if I can get my guys in the 50 to 60 range, I try to do that. If I can get girls into the 40s, Morgan Grace Sheffield is one of my highest mileage athletes ever. She got 65 one time, but that's what she wanted to do. And I'm runner focused in the sense of, meeting the runners where they are and what their expectations and goals are. And I mold my training around them. I don't try to force everybody to do 50 to 60 miles. I think probably the majority of the runners in my program are doing 30 to 40, and some of the rookies are doing a lot less than that. I do believe that mileage is the way. I have 3 words in my training program that I really focus on and they're just descriptors. The first one is consistency, developing consistency in your training in terms of days per week, minutes per run, and just increasing over time. And then the second one is volume, adding volume to the training, slowly escalating during the summer. And I love the summer because it's a long buildup. You get to do all the things you want to do. And then the last component is intensity. These are the three words that have been at the top of my training program for 30 years. But I'm constantly changing because I read this book this summer, Doug Souls. He has a lot of interesting things to say. Obviously, some of the things we do, some of the things I'd like to do, and some things that, I don't know. He has no problem recruiting from other programs in your school, and he does some things that anyway. But I read books, I go to the clinics, and so. But I think my approach is the same. I mean, I might change some things, but I'm always growing and learning.
What about when you switch gears and in the spring you're like when you've been a head track coach, like how does your focus shift from cross country to track where there's so many more events and personnel groups to consider?
Well, when I was at Collins Hill, it was a whole different approach because when Richard Ramsey and I worked together for so many years, and we had a lot of different assistants and Hoffman, I mean, the three of us were together. Ramsey, he was my assistant in cross country. And even though I was a head track coach, I kind of considered him to be the director of track and field, and he took the lead. And so he did a lot of that work. But then when he left, I kind of got to the point where I was entering sprinters and events, and I was making groups. And so I really was kind of a head track coach. But then when I got to Denmark, the approach is completely different. We have a staff, but we all just work with our areas. Like, we don't really interact with the sprinters at track practice. I mean, we share the space, but the sprinters meet their coach, the distance runners meet us, and the throwers meet their coach, and that's it. We don't really do anything together other than we meet together sometimes, and we have the banquet. So I do a lot of the big things in track. I do the meet schedule and the bus schedule and those kinds of things. But I really just coach the distance runners. So it's different than it was at Collins Hill. And I have to say, it's a lot less work. So guys, when you're head track coach and you're really doing the head track coach thing, I don't know how I did it. I think back to all the things that I did when we ran the road race to Dennis McCormick, and we would travel a lot in track, and it's different now. And I don't know, I'm older and smarter, and I don't know, I'd like to believe, but it's different. Now, obviously the training approach is a little different as well.
So what I'm hearing you say maybe is the older you've got, the more you like delegating or people having their particular areas that they're focusing on as a coaching staff.
Yes, when you're young, you want to do everything. You want to have your input on everything. And now I'm like, Patrick Jones does a great job, and I like to consider him the director, and I even tell him that, and I think he's embraced that. He's coaching the sprinters, which is by far the biggest group, and he does the relay lineups and all of that. Everybody enters their own kids. And I've got, Christine Bridge works with me in cross country and track. She does a lot of things that I'm very happy that she does. Like today, we had practice this morning, and we had a couple of runners that we're concerned about. And she's like, well, let me call their parents. And so she calls the parents or talks to them. And I'm like, oh, I'm so happy she's doing things like that. So, yeah, absolutely. I don't have any problem delegating. And I wasn't at practice Friday. And we were supposed to be in the stadium, but the football team was having team pictures, and my assistants all got together and adjusted and did a great job. And I didn't worry about it. 15, 20 years ago, I'd be like calling them, hey, how did it go? What did you do? And now I'm like, I'm sure they did a great job. And I just, you don't worry about it. You trust people a lot more. Mm-hmm. You try to explain things, and then you don't worry about it.
Gotcha. Sticking with the track subject, I know you're focused on distance, but what are the other events that you really get excited about watching I know you're a coach, but as a spectator almost, like, oh, this is an exciting non-distance event?
Well, I had to say, watching other track events, I'm a bit of an elitist in the sense that I like watching other events at very high levels. Like,
Mhm.
I love watching great hurdlers. I mean,
Mhm.
to me, that's just the most explosive event. I mean, to watch the 100-meter hurdlers, the 110-meter hurdlers, but also about 90% of the kids who do it are developmental, and it's not pretty to watch. But when you see the elites do it, I mean, it's something else. And obviously the relays, like when you watch Buford run 39 point at state, I mean, that's just mind boggling to
Right.
see that. So yeah, I do like to watch. I have to confess my interest in the field events is just it gets less and less every year. I don't know. I just don't have the bandwidth for it. I don't know.
Well, I think what is interesting is because I'm distance minded too, and so the it's so much focused on technique. I think it's a little different for us distance folks to think like you never think a high jumper is not going to go into the high jump. Oh man, this is really going to hurt. Versus a 2 miler who knows the pain they're about to endure.
Absolutely.
So it's
It,
just a
it is
different
totally
mindset.
different.
Yeah. Um, but what about well, you mentioned the hurdlers. I think this has come up on this podcast before. The challenge of finding people that are willing to maybe take on the hurdles, and people that would be really good at it, but they're dead set on open 200, 400, where maybe they like the speed for those events, but if they would just be willing to try the hurdles, that would be their sweet spot maybe. So talk about maybe the challenge of pushing people towards, hey, like I think you should try this event.
You've hit on something really big there, because this is one thing that I've noticed recently. I mean, we had 170 something kids in the program, and I think we had 3 or 4 hurdlers last year. And I do think it's more difficult to get kids to want to try things. I think 90% of a track team wants to run the 100 meters, get in the team picture, get a team uniform, and that's it. They want to run the meets. They don't necessarily want to come to practice. I just think so many people are interested in the 100 and 200, and they don't want to try other things. I mean, the coaches get people interested in the events, but it's not many. It's a small handful. We probably have 10 to 15 throwers and a handful of jumpers. Obviously, we try. I think they assess a lot of the kids, but like I said, I just think most of them want to run the 100, and I don't even know if they want to run the 200, and they certainly are scared of the 400.
Yeah, and the 400 feels like a distance event for them, for some of the runners, some of the sprinters.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think more and more we try to get kids into the 400. So that's one thing that I do think that we work hard at.
yeah. Um, you've already mentioned some mentors, but in particular, you had a lot of great things to say about your high school coach. And so, what was it about that approach, the coaching you received, that you think was so impactful?
Um, well, just coaches who are demanding, who present challenges, and when you're young, you want to accept challenges and you want to impress people. Um, Ron Helmer was a very stoic man, and in some ways he was a bit aloof and he could be very harsh. And so, if you can impress someone like that, well, then, so, you're just constantly wanting to, do his bidding. And I don't know, it's just his approach. But at the same time, people develop strong relationships with him. He was very stern. He had a very demanding training program, but we were all on board. We sold out. I was thinking about it this morning. We couldn't even have practice in Virginia in the summer. They wouldn't allow practices to occur until about a week or two before school started. So we're totally on our own, but he gave us a program, and at least the boys that I was with, we did it. I mean, I did it all to a T as much as I possibly could. And, we'd get together in late August, and I always, it was that time where you wanted to go see, well, how did everybody do, and how fit is everybody? And so, we never lacked for confidence that we could demonstrate that, hey, we trained all summer. So just setting the bar high, challenging us in ways that we were just so eager to embrace.
Yeah. You already kind of touched on this, but what improvements do you think you've made from when you were a young coach to where you are now? You talked about delegating, but are there other things that come to mind, now versus back then as a newer, younger coach?
Yeah, probably it used to just drive me crazy when people wouldn't do what I would ask them to do. It just seems so easy to me. It's like, if you would just do this, you'll be successful. And I say the same things now. And I tell the kids, and I'll tell you what, it's funny because Morgan Gray Sheffield gave me this picture a few years ago. And at the bottom, it's kind of a semblance of a quote of things that I would say in practice. It says, when you listen to at least 90% of what I say, stay consistent and wear layers, then you will see results. And that's a quote. So and I've been saying that, I remember back in the, 20 years ago, if you would just, the higher percentage of things that I tell you to do, if you will do them, you will be successful. I said, but a lot of you, you struggle to do even half of the things that we ask you to do. So I'm saying the same things, but I don't get as bothered as I used to, because I'm like, well, you're going to do it or not. And if you want to be successful, it's very easy for me to say, it's very easy for me to present, but I know that it's going to be hard for some of you to do. And so I try to give them ways to do it. I'm like, you got to get up early and do it first thing in the morning, because I remember that's one of the things that I struggled with the most, is if you don't do it early in the day, regardless of the time of year, the more the day goes on and all friends want to get together and do something. If it's the holidays, you go see a movie, you're going to eat. And then it's, it's too late to go do anything. It's dark and you don't feel, so I try to, explain to them how to succeed. It's just, you got to get it done first thing. And I know some of my runners, they like to run in the middle of the night. They'll go out and run at 10 or 11. I'm like, I think you're crazy, but okay. Or they end up doing it on the treadmill. I'm like, okay, that's not the same thing. I mean, I'm glad that you're doing it, but it's not the same thing as just getting out and doing it. So improvements, I tweak all the things that I do, but I try never to repeat the same workouts. And anyway, I'm confident in my approach. I don't get bothered as much as I used to. Now, I may act like it. I may have a sermon, we call it the sermon of the day. And hopefully they're listening and responding, but we'll see. You can, like any team, you can say, oh, I think he's doing it and she's doing it.
Right.
These people are not.
Yeah. No, that's a good reminder for me too, because I'm sure you see it in the classroom as well. The things that we tell students, here's what you need to do to be successful, and the ones that do, like you said, 90% of it do well, and then you have the others that don't. And for me, at least as a teacher, that can be tough for me to not get too bogged down on the ones that maybe aren't. But it's a good reminder for me that if you just kind of maybe focus on the ones that are doing the majority of things right, then maybe the other ones will follow suit, and the focus is more on the positive.
Yeah, I think when you're young, it's a control thing. You know that this works, and if you want to control everything, and now it's more like, here it is. I want you to do it. I'm going to try to motivate you to do it, but it's ultimately your decision. When I'm not around, when we don't have practice, because we only have practice 3 days a week in the summer. But in the program, I say, I need you to run 5 to 6 days a week. So that means at least half the time, you're going to have to get out on your own. And I kind of do that intentionally. Well, one thing is I like to have time to myself too. I know programs that meet 6 days a week, and I'm just like, gosh, by the time you get to October, you probably want to kill each other.
Yeah.
So, 3 days a week and say, hey, put it on them. You're going to have to get out and train on your own. And I encourage you to get together. We go to parks in the summer and say, so I'm showing you all these places where it's easy to run. Because I also realize that if you don't have interesting places to run, you may not be as motivated. So I try to find all the parks, the greenways, the beautiful greenways, because to me, that's the key. If I can go find a trail that's beautiful, or I can get on the Big Creek Greenway, all these trailheads they have up here, or even Chattahoochee Point Park. That's not my favorite place to run. It's great for workouts, but it's better than running on Mullinax Road in front of Denmark, where it's just exposed sidewalk up and down. And so that as a runner, to me, finding interesting places to go run, I'll always drive to parks. And I know out where you are, out by Mill Creek, I mean, you've got Little Mulberry, and even you have to drive a little bit to get to Harbin's. But I mean, that's what help me as a runner. What I encourage them to do: go somewhere interesting to run, because just doing it around your neighborhood is tough.
Absolutely, change of scenery helps out.
But then during track practice, my ding dongs will do 5 miles around the track. What are you doing? Why are you running around the track? I don't know. As long as they get it done, though, I think actually that probably makes them mentally tougher if they can do 5 miles around the track. I wouldn't want to do that, but if they want to do it, great.
Maybe those are the future people that do a marathon in their cul-de-sac that you read about.
Oh, gosh. I remember reading years ago that I think it was a Japanese man who did a marathon just running around a tree.
Wow.
What? How would you ever even want to do that?
More power to them.
Yeah.
What have been some highlights? You can talk about specific, things that, in the early 2000s, y'all had an incredible run with the girls, and you coached girls before you moved on to the boys at Collins Hill. But it doesn't have to necessarily. It can be any highlight that comes to mind from your time, any school, anytime.
Well, my last year at Riverside coaching cross country, and this is a guy who still sings my praises on Facebook. He's just such a nice guy. Rob Parker at Riverside Military Academy, finishing 6th place at the state meet, in 2 years of running, going from a novice to, a medalist at state cross country. I know that meant a lot to him. And then Natalie Florence winning her first state title. That just blew me away. Very happy about that. And then obviously the run of titles where we just kept getting better and better. Probably 2007 was definitely a highlight because we won the boys and the girls in the same year. And I think we had a lot of meets. I go back and look where we swept everything. We swept the varsity and the JV and the freshmen. That was just incredible, an incredible group of people. There were some other things, winning the national title in DMR at Nike Nationals, because we were in, I'm trying to think, we were in 7th or 8th place after the 1200 leg. And then we were in 5th place after the 400. And then we were in 3rd place going into Amanda. And then with about 250 to go, she just blew everybody away. To win the nationals. That's certainly a highlight with Coach Ramsey because he got his 56 quarter miler to agree to continue to train for 6 more weeks. So that was huge. To have a 56 quarter miler on a DMR, even at nationals, not a lot of people are going to have that.
Right.
So that was a highlight. Ethan Ashley, his senior cross country season was perfect all the way until Foot Locker Nationals. Then obviously going to Portland twice or 3 times, 2 with teams, and then the 3rd year with Nikki as an individual. I just remember standing. This is one of the greatest memories of my career is when we were in Portland that first year, and it was 30 degrees, it was completely overcast and damp and rainy, and it was snowing, and the course was a disaster, but it just felt so incredible. I mean, I'm looking around, they've got the marching band, they're introducing the teams, they're running out, and the air is so crisp. That was just an amazing experience to be, 30 degrees with snow, and you're just loving every second of it because it's just so awesome.
Right.
Um, that was certainly one of the highlights. Just a lot of great things to enjoy for sure.
Yeah. So as we kind of wrap up this, that kind of makes me think, we've had coaches on the podcast that maybe come from more rural areas and are kind of got the program where they want, but they're continuing to build, whether it's rural or urban, wherever. What do you say to the coaches that you've got a good thing going, but you want to keep it going? Like once you felt like things were really rolling at Collins Hill or at Denmark, how do you keep it going in the right direction that you want?
So that Doug Souls spends a lot of time talking about that, and I know that. Who was the Bill Harris at Fayetteville Manlius? Yes. I mean, you have to immediately start planning. You see the future. That's the big thing, is you see the future. And that was the challenge at Collins Hill. And it still is at Denmark to a certain extent, because we don't really know what's coming up in the middle school. At Collins Hill, we had no idea. I didn't know what was coming up. But you beat the hallways and try to find kids and get as many freshmen out as you can. And that's what helps you to see the future, because you just see down the road, well, who is going to, who do we need to pour into to get them motivated and hooked, because they're going to be the ones down the road that are going to really help us. And I had a group of freshmen this past year who let me know that, hey, we had better mile times than this group that just won state did. We had more depth and faster mile times. They're already thinking like they want to be the guys in 3 or 4 years because they ran faster miles than that group did who just won state. So, getting them to think like that, and it even happens. And that was always the interesting thing, is that Ron Helmer always said, is if you lay the groundwork and get things going in the right direction, it can sustain itself, because it's the kids, it's the runners who work together and identify the young runners and motivate. And you want to try to encourage them to be positive. You don't want to have any kind of hazing, and get the kids to buy into, hey, you're going to sustain the program. You can't poo-poo on the freshmen or the JV runners. And this always surprises me. I see this sometimes with coaches where they just focus on the varsity and they don't realize that, it's just so short-sighted, because, if I just did that last year, well, then all I have left is Jacob Grant and 2 freshmen from last year. And then what am I looking at? You have to look all the way across the board, top to bottom in your program, and realize where the line is in your depth chart, like who's going to help you in the future and who's more likely to give it up because they're just not running fast enough, and identifying these people. I'd always immediately start planning in my head for next year. Well, who are the ones we need? What do we need to see in track? We need to get this is who we need to get to break 5 in track, or break 6 in the girls. Like, these are the people, and if they can do that, then we can parlay that over the summer, and just make continued improvement. So always thinking ahead, always identifying your personnel. Like I said, Doug Souls spends a lot of time in his book talking about that. He even goes so far as to want to write a letter to every single incoming freshman. I think that's a little over the top, but he's willing to do that. Because he's always thinking 2 to 3 years down the road.
Right.
But you have to be able to identify people. And this is the problem. At some point, if you can't identify people, you're like, well, what are we going to do here? And this is what I've had a little problem with the girls at Denmark, because the last 3 years, we've had 1 girl in the senior class. That's it. Like, we had 1 girl in the class for 3 years. And that makes it difficult. But, again, you still look to the JV, you still try to get freshmen, you still try to pour into the right people to get them hooked and get them motivated and get them, influencing others to join them. Uh,
Mhm.
Trying to make that happen sort of directly and behind the scenes, orchestrating things.
Yeah.
You have to think like that.
I love what you said about focusing on not just the varsity. I think it's Gwinnett County. We're with it now, but it used to be the way the county was just set up that it was you had a boys coach and a girls coach, and you were one of the first in the county to kind of get the combined program, and then thankfully a lot of us followed suit, in the years after that. But when I know for me at least when I started coaching girls, I was like, well, this is more people to get excited about, like for the race, like it's more opportunities for success. And I kind of feel the same way about from varsity to JV. Not only is it like you said, building up your program, but it's more kids to get to know and get excited about whether they want to break 18 or 30, whatever it is. More goals, more investment on a Saturday or whenever they're competing.
Absolutely. And you're one of the coaches who's always done that, because I think back on my challenges. I don't know if I ever beat your JV boys team. I mean, you always had incredible JV and freshmen, and Ben Dinky at Brookwood the same. I mean, Gwinnett County JV and freshmen, it's very competitive. And I know kind of in our county now, I mean, West Forsyth, I mean, they're very difficult to beat on the JV level, and especially this year. But these programs that have so much depth, I mean, people have figured it out.
Yeah.
That's how you sustain a program, is who's going to fill in the gaps in the coming years.
Yeah. All right, last question. Georgia track and field cross country now versus when you started. What are some? Because it's definitely changed. I ran in Georgia in the '90s, and there's been a lot of improvements for the better. But what comes to mind when you think of that?
Well, positives. I think Georgia is one of the very best track and field states in the country. I mean, outside of California, Florida, and Texas, who obviously have population advantages, Georgia is just an incredible state for track and field, and it always has been. Certainly in the top 10, maybe even in the top 5 in terms of quality across the board, looking at the events. And I also think Georgia has benefited like the rest of the country. And, 20 years ago, the internet creating awareness, but also now we have the shoe development, and people are just constantly researching about how to get faster. And, I think one of my assistants, Coach Bridge, anyway, someone shared a video of a guy talking about coaching the 800. And he said that, even 5, 8, 10 years ago, 5 or 6 guys would break 150 in the 800. This year, 31 guys broke 150, which is ridiculous. Like, I look back, I think 5 or 6 guys in the history of Georgia have broken 150. And then you look at Harriman, Utah, Doug Soul's team, 726 this year. They had their third leg was 149. Their anchor was 148. Just insane. How? I mean, I don't even know how you do that. Huh? So obviously things have gotten better and deeper. The shoes, the technology, the internet, people are looking at supplementing and diet. So I think people are running faster. Now the flip side of this, and this may be controversial, but I talk with some coaches who kind of agree with me. I think the field events have suffered a little bit overall. I don't think the field events are necessarily as deep as they used to be, because I think more people are interested in running fast than they are in the technique of, the long jump or the triple jump. Obviously we have great hurdles, but I don't know that we have as many coaches now who are technicians, who are jack of all trades, who coach all the and I'm as guilty as anybody else, because I just focus on the distance running. But I don't think that things like the pole vault, where there are a lot of great coaches out there who are learning the pole vault or learning the long jump or learning the triple jump. Well, the long jump's not as complicated as like the triple jump or the hurdles. I don't know what just happened. So I don't know that we've made vast improvements in the field events like we have in the running events. And I think that maybe that's just we've lost some of the technicians. We've lost some of the people like Rick Moore and Ron Clanton, who just knew all of those events and coached them. And it was very important to them. And obviously there are people out there still doing it. I don't think the field events have progressed as much as the running events have in the last 10 to 15 years.
Right. Hopefully we've got some young, passionate coaches that are interested in those events. And because, as you know, just like when the 4x8 came along, when there's points to be had, you're going to hopefully find somebody to help your team out, whether it's pole vault or relay or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely. And then saying that, I think your girls long jumpers this year, you had like 3 over 17.6 or something crazy like that. So obviously some people are doing a good job with it. But yeah, we do need more young coaches to learn the triple jump, to learn the hurdles, to learn the high jump, to learn the pole vault. I'd like to see more young coaches do things like that, get interested.
Yeah, me too. I mean, yeah, Coach Jed Hodges is the person that gets that credit. Awesome long jump coach, awesome coach, period. But he just retired. So again, we need some young coaches to step up and know those technical events on the track.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for this. This was awesome. Love hearing about your career. I've loved watching you for years. I've learned a lot from watching your program and your programs at the different schools, but love hearing about it again. So thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much. We need to have a podcast and talk about music sometime.
Yes. Yeah. We need a distance or just track cross country coaches who like good music podcast.
Absolutely. We talk about Radiohead, Soundgarden. And
yes, absolutely. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much for giving me this forum, and I look forward to seeing you in the cross-country season. I'm still coaching. I'm retired from full-time teaching, but still going to be out there at the meets.
Awesome. Thank you.